A ship is drifting toward your harbor, and almost everyone aboard it is already dead. You don't know that yet. You are alive in the autumn of 1347, in a busy town on the edge of the medieval world, and your life is about to end in a way no one alive has words for. Within a single year, half the people you know will be gone. Whole families, whole streets, whole towns, wiped off the face of the earth. This is the Black Death, the deadliest catastrophe in human history, and you are about to live through it, or not. Let's start before it comes. While the world still makes sense, you live in a medieval town, a few thousand people maybe. The streets are narrow and muddy and loud. There is no running water, no understanding of germs, no real medicine. When someone falls sick, you pray, or you bleed them, or you blame the air. Life is hard, but it is normal. You wake at dawn. You work a trade or the land. You go to church on Sunday. You know your neighbors, the baker, the priest, the children who play in the square. Death is no stranger here. Plenty of children never grow up. But death comes one at a time, slowly, the way it always has. Lately, though, there are rumors. Travelers from the east speak of a great pestilence, a sickness sweeping through distant cities, killing everyone it touches. But the east is far away, and stories grow taller as they travel. You don't think about it much. You should have. The truth is darker than any rumor. 2 years earlier, far to the east, a Mongol army is laying siege to the trading city of Caffa on the Black Sea, when the plague tears through their own camp instead. So the story goes, they load their infected dead onto catapults and hurl the rotting bodies over the city walls. It may be the first biological weapon in history. The terrified merchants trapped inside flee by ship, west across the sea, toward home, and carry the end of the world with them. In October of 1347, 12 trading ships sail into the harbor of Messina in Sicily. When the dockworkers climb aboard, they find a nightmare. Most of the sailors are dead. The few still breathing are covered in black swellings, oozing blood. The ships are ordered back out to sea. But it is already too late. The rats have come ashore. And on the rats, the fleas. Because this is how it moves, a tiny bacterium living in the gut of a flea, riding on the back of a black rat, traveling silently down every trade route in the world. No one knows this. No one will know it for another 500 years. From Sicily, it spreads like fire, into Italy, into France, into Spain. By the summer of 1348, it has reached Paris, and then it leaps the Channel into England. It moves in 2 forms, one that swells the body with black boils, and a second, even deadlier kind that drowns the lungs and spreads on the breath alone from one person to the next, with nothing in between. It travels faster than any person can run, and one ordinary morning it reaches you. At first, it is only one person, a neighbor with a headache, a fever, a strange and sudden exhaustion. Then come the swellings, hard, agonizing lumps in the neck, the armpits, the groin. They grow to the size of an egg, then an apple, then they turn black. This is where the name will come from, the Black Death. From your first symptom, you have maybe 3 days, often fewer. The fever climbs, some cough blood and are dead by nightfall. At the end, the skin blackens in patches as the body begins to rot while the person is still alive. And it does not take one of you and stop. It takes your neighbor, then their whole family, then the house next door. Within weeks, your town is dying all at once. Soon there are not enough living to bury the dead. Bodies pile in the streets. People dig enormous pits and throw the dead in by the dozen, layer over layer. Like lasagna, one survivor actually writes, the priests who give last rites catch it and die. The doctors who treat the sick die treating them. Those who can afford to, run. The rich abandon the cities for country estates and lock the doors behind them. In Florence, a writer named Boccaccio watches it all and describes people shut away in villas, passing the days telling each other stories, while the world ends outside the walls, too numb by now to do anything else. And here is what no story prepares you for. The people you love do not get to die with dignity. Parents abandon sick children. Children flee dying parents, not from cruelty, but from terror. To touch the sick is to die. So the dying are often left alone in a locked room, listening to a whole town fall silent around them. By now you have buried friends, maybe family. And every single morning you wait to feel the first ache in your neck. You check your skin for spots. You live inside a horror with no end in sight. Because no one knows what this is, how it spreads, or whether it will ever stop. So people try everything. They believe the sickness rides on bad air, miasma. So they press bundles of flowers and herbs to their faces. Those eerie plague doctors with the long-beaked masks stuffed with herbs, those come 300 years later. Your doctors have nothing like that. They lance the black swellings, they bleed you with knives, they press dried toads to your skin, feed you powdered emeralds, and sit you between two roaring fires. None of it does a thing, nothing does. They light fires to cleanse the air. They ring the church bells. They pray harder than they have ever prayed in their lives. Some lose their minds to guilt. Groups of men called flagellants march from town to town, whipping their own backs bloody, begging God to lift the punishment. And in the darkest chapter of all, terrified people go looking for someone to blame, and turn on their neighbors. Across Europe, Jewish communities are accused of poisoning the wells, and massacred by the thousands. Out of these years, one idea emerges that actually works. The cities of Ragusa and Venice begin forcing every arriving ship to sit at anchor, for 40 days before a single soul may step ashore. 40 days. In their language, 40 giorni. It is the birth of a word you still use today, quarantine. And then slowly, the dying stops. When the Black Death finally loosens its grip around 1351, the silence is the worst part. The fields stand unworked. The animals wander loose. Whole villages sit empty, doors hanging open, no one left inside. By the time it is over, it has killed somewhere between a third and a half of everyone in Europe. Tens of millions of people, and perhaps as many as 200 million across the entire world. By proportion, it is the deadliest event our species has ever endured. Nothing before it and nothing since has come close. And you, somehow, are still alive. You don't know why. Maybe luck. Maybe something hidden in your blood. You watched your world end, and then watched it slowly, stubbornly, refuse to end. And the survivors climb out into a changed earth. Because here is the strange part. With so many dead, the ones still living suddenly matter more. There are too few workers and far too much work. So for the first time, ordinary people can demand higher pay, better lives, the right to walk away from a cruel master. The rigid old world, lords and serfs, everyone fixed in place forever, cracks open. A generation later, when the lords try to force the old chains back on, the peasants rise up in open revolt. Historians still argue that the Black Death, by killing half of Europe, quietly helped end the Middle Ages and cleared the ground for everything that came after. You were born into one world, you will die in another, and it was built on the graves of everyone you lost. The plague never truly left either. It came back again and again for centuries. The bacterium still exists today. It's just treatable now with a handful of pills. But for 1 year, in the middle of the 1300s, you lived through the closest thing to the end of the world that human beings have ever seen. And the most haunting part isn't that so many people vanished. It's how quickly the world simply went on without them.